What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Shameless Watch Collector. Microbrands have been on an absolute tear the last few years. They're getting more attention, more hype, and honestly, they deserve it. This is one of my favorite corners of the watch world. This is where all the weird ideas, risky decisions, and concepts that get laughed out of major boardrooms actually get made. Big brands are busy protecting their heritage and margins, while microbrands are out here experimenting with wild dials, titanium everything, funky case shapes, themed collabs, and mind-blowing specs for the pricing. However, you're going to notice that microbrands usually cost more than a lot of the watches that I show from places like AliExpress. And that does make sense. Most of these guys don't have giant factories, they're not buying parts by the container, and they're not getting movements at the same wholesale pricing as brands with enormous budgets. A lot of this stuff is built in smaller batches with more custom parts, more hands-on assembly, and way more time sunk into design and finishing. You're paying for people who really care about every tiny decision and obsess over watches even more than we do. In return, you get watches that feel personal. And that's why I think microbrands are worth our support. When you buy from them, you're basically pushing the watch community forward and encouraging more creativity. So in this video, we're digging into some of my favorite examples of microbrands. Ones that deliver real value and feel genuinely special. And since these are microbrand watches, it means I have something for pretty much everybody. This is easily the most variety in terms of design that I've had on any video on this channel so far. So let's get into it. First, we have Dan Henry. When it comes to elegant racing chronographs at ridiculous value, I personally don't think anyone touches Dan Henry. This is one of the brands that got me obsessed with watches in the first place, and somehow they still don't get talked about as much as I think they should. Let's start with the 1962. This one is at the very top of my Christmas list, and I'm trusting my wife to deliver. You guys know I'm a sucker for a car and a case back. I'm in love with this one on the 1962 that features the Maserati birdcage. The engraving is so good, and I love when a watch goes all in on a racing theme. I don't think I've seen another watch that screams racing chronograph this hard while still looking this clean and minimalist. The dial design is familiar in all the right ways, but it still somehow feels unique. Those blue hands are doing so much heavy lifting. It's such a tiny detail, but it adds tons of character. That only works because the rest of the dial is so confident and uncluttered. Specs-wise, this is basically my ideal vintage-inspired racer chronograph, 39mm in diameter, about 13.5 thick, and around 46 lug to lug. You get a 316L stainless steel case with twisted lugs, a double-domed K1 mineral crystal with AR, and 50 meters of water resistance. Inside is the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz, so you get that smooth chrono sweep and snapback reset without having to baby a delicate mechanical movement. I genuinely cannot wait to get this one on wrist and expect to see it on the channel very soon. Now let's check out the 1964 Gran Turismo, the watch that almost stole the spot from the 1962 on my Christmas list. I went back and forth between these two more times than I want to admit, and I'm 99% positive I'm going to own both eventually. On paper, it's a similar pitch, vintage-inspired racing chronograph with the tri-compacts or bi-compacts layout, totally up to you. You also have the Mecha Quartz inside, and another amazing car on the case back. This time it's tied to the Aston Martin DB5 for 1964, which also just happens to be one of my favorite cars of all time. The 38mm version comes in at just under 13mm thick, around 45 lug to lug with 50 meters of water resistance. The 36mm version basically shrinks down the whole package while keeping the movement intact. The star of this line, though, to me, is the mother of pearl on the 36. I think this is one of the most beautiful dials Dan Henry has ever done. If they offer this exact mother of pearl configuration in the 38, I honestly think this one might have won over the 1962. One detail I really appreciate in both the 62 and the 64 is that you can choose a date or no date without it affecting the price. Same with the bi-compacts or the tri-compacts. And when I said value earlier, I was not kidding. Both the 1962 and 1964 come in at around $280. And then I have the 1975 here, mostly just to prove to you guys that Dan Henry isn't just a racing chrono brand. They also make some beautiful pieces like the Stiver. This is a proper 70s style skin diver, slim case, big high domed crystal, bright dials, and a bezel that looks really vintage and nice. You're looking at 39mm in diameter, around 10.5 thick for the quartz, and about a millimeter more for the automatic, and it's roughly 42 lug to lug. You have a 60-minute bezel with 120 clicks, and high dome sapphire crystal with AR, and 150 meters of water resistance. Dials come in a wide variety of beautiful colors, some more loud and some more classic and very elegant looking. What I also love about this is you get choices again. You get to choose your movement on this one. On the quartz side, you can get the VH31 with the smooth sweep, and then on the automatic side, you get the Miyota 9015. 28,800 beats per hour, hacking, hand whitening, and a solid 40-hour power reserve. No matter which one you pick, this one's a real winner. Second on the list, we have Zelos. Zelos is the poster child for one of the bigger microbrands doing wild dial work. They're a Singapore-based brand that's been around for a while now, and their whole thing is pushing materials and textures way harder than most big brands are willing to. And the best part is they pair all that beautiful chaos with genuinely solid specs and sizes that work on wrist. We'll start with the Swordfish SS. The Swordfish line might have some of the wildest styles on this entire list. These are just ridiculous ideas. Lagoon has this teal, almost mother of pearl effect that ships like water. And then you have Scarlet with a deep red that fades to black at the edges. And then Holo. This is a laser engraved steel dial that throws a holographic sunburst around whenever the light hits it. This is one of my favorite dials out there. If you don't want to go full disco ball though, they do have more traditional colors. They still get tons of attention to texture and finishing. These also feel special just without being loud. All of this sits in a very wearable case at 40mm in diameter, around 12mm thick, and 46 lug to lug. The bracelet uses female end links with an updated clasp with an on-the-fly micro adjust. You also have 316L stainless steel in the case and bracelet, flat sapphire with inner AR, 200 meters of water resistance, and 120 click bezel. The loom is a mix of C3X1 and BGW9, so this thing basically turns into a glow stick once the lights go out. Inside this watch is the Seiko NH35 with the color match date wheel. Not the fanciest movement, but it's reliable, easy to service, and I like how they added a little nice touch with that color match. This watch starts at around $425, and the more premium materials used in the dial can drive the price up a little bit, and they sell out ridiculously quick, so if you see one you love, do not wait on these. The Mako is Zelos putting on a slightly more serious face than what they have with the Swordfish. You still get wild dials, don't get me wrong, but now with 300 meters of water resistance and a slimmer, more vintage-leaning case. Most Mako V3 steel models come in around 40mm, 46 to 47 lug to lug, and about 11 to 12 thick. So on wrist, it wears a lot like a Swordfish, just with a little more water resistance and a little bit more vintage. But the dials are what makes your jaw drop. Meteorite versions with actual monolista meteorite for both dial and bezel. Lagoon Blue with Guilloche in reverse Fumi, Nebula Fumi with a matching sapphire bezel. It's all completely over the top in a very fun way, and super easy to say, and definitely didn't take me a million takes right there to get that right, and probably still pronounce it all wrong. Underneath, most Makos run a Miyota 9015, which is thinner and higher beat than the NH35. That's a big part of why this watch wears so well for something rated 300 meters. It is a little pricier than the Swordfish line, but between the higher WR, the slimmer profile, and the dial and bezel work, you at least know exactly where your money went. Next up, we have Baltic. Baltic is the tasteful French microbrand that the internet has recently become obsessed with. And honestly, I get it. They're one of the brands out there that's just nailing that vintage-inspired look while still feeling fresh. They're all about proportions, textures, and colors that look far above their price point. We'll start with the Baltic Hermetique Tour, another very easy French word to say. On paper, it's just a straightforward field watch. 37mm, around 11 thick, 46 lug to lug. You get the 316L stainless steel, double dome sapphire with internal AR, 150 meters of water resistance, and a screw-down integrated crown. Inside is the Miyota 9039 automatic. This one runs at 28,800 beats per hour and also has hacking, hand whitening, and around 42 hours of power reserve. But the dial is where Baltic starts to really stick out. You get a two-part layout with a matte central sector, contrasting outer minute track and applied indices that bridge the two. Syringe hands, a lollipop seconds, and big blocks of BGW9 or C3 loom to keep it legible and give it that proper tool watch glow. And then there's that new summer collection. Same watch, same specs, but in these loud yellow, turquoise, pink, and orange colors, all on matching FKM straps. I'm such a sucker for a good summer line, as you guys know, and this one checks every box. And delivering good value, priced at around £550. Now let's check out the HMS 002 and the 003, where Baltic gets a little bit more fancy, and I guess more familiar with the rest of their collection. These dial 3-handers feel straight out of the 30s and 40s, but you obviously get that modern reliability. Both the 002 and 003 run the Miyota 8315 with a 60-hour power reserve and about 50 meters of water resistance. So these are still dressy, but they can be everyday watches as well. The 002 is slightly larger, more of an old school one at 38mm, about 47 lug to lug, with a high domed Hezolite crystal and a stepped case that instantly gives it a mid-century vibe. You get a sectored dial with a brush outer ring, glossy or matte intersection depending on the color, applied markers, and slim leaf hands. The black and gold PVD version in particular looks like it should cost so much more than it does. The 003 shrinks things down a bit. It's around 36mm in diameter with a shorter lug to lug, and it pushes even deeper into the true vintage territory. The dial feels like the greatest hits of earlier HMS designs. You got the brushed railway track, sandblasted background, polished applied markers, and slightly larger leaf hands for a bit more character. Colors like the blue gilt and salmon absolutely sell this whole look. Both of these models deliver great value, sitting around $300. Let's keep things moving with BOLDR. BOLDR is one of the leaders in the outdoor side of the microbrand scene. They're based in Singapore, and they very much lean into the adventure tool side of watches. Their pieces feel like they're always meant to be used, knocked around, and they make for amazing dailies. They also feel like one of those companies that's just making watches for themselves, instead of focusing on what's hot or trendy at the time. First, we have the Field Medic 2, which is probably the most interesting and purpose-built watch on this list. It was inspired by healthcare workers during the pandemic and designed to be useful on the job. It uses a super wearable 38mm titanium case that's about 12.2mm thick and roughly 44 lug to lug. And you also get 200 meters of water resistance. You have flat sapphire with AR, a screw-down crown, a screw-down case back with artwork, and a nylon NATO strap with titanium hardware to make it light and tough in a way that steel just can't match. Inside is the Seiko MK64 Mecha Quartz. So on this watch, instead of a tachometer, you have a pulsometer, and respiratory scales printed around the edge. Start the chrono, count heartbeats or breaths, stop it, and the seconds hand points straight to the rates per minute. It's an actual working tool for medical staff and a great everyday chrono for the rest of us. But the fact that BOLDR also donates a portion of sales to related charities just makes the value of this price even better. You can currently pick this one up for just under $300. Now let's take a look at the Rally 3 Wells Jr. and the Rally 797 SRW. So we take that same 38mm titanium case, the same dimensions, the same 200 meter rating, and the same VK64, and we just bring all of that to the racetrack. The Wells Jr. goes full rally livery with yellow, black, and gray, and a matte dial packed with lume so it still looks alive at night. The 797 is kind of like the moodier one, darker case finish, black dial, but you get the bright blue accents. Both get custom engraved case backs tied to their themes, both share the same titanium, sapphire, and 200 meter spec stack, and both are at the same price, again, $299. And now I get to the next piece of their Pokemon line. This time, BOLDR chose Venusaur. Part of their Voyage line, it's a 41mm 316L stainless steel case, just under 50 lug to lug. It comes with a full steel bracelet with the clasp that has topographic line art etched to it, and it still runs the BK64. The dial is all around Bulbasaur and Venusaur. The matte ombre blue that matches the palette, and the bright applied markers. You get plenty of Swiss lume and the familiar dual register layout. Flip it over and you have a full Venusaur illustration under sapphire with the serial number. As someone who grew up in this era of Pokemon, and is definitely their target audience on this one, they got me hook, line, and sinker. I really have my eye on this watch, and I'm already so bummed that I missed out on the Charizard and Charmander one. So act quick on this one if it speaks to you as much as it does to me. Our next microbrand is RZE. RZE is another Singapore brand, and they're fully committed to titanium and hard coatings. Everything they make is light, tough, and has a sharp, modern design language. Their whole idea is assembled for adventure watches that you don't have to baby and finishes that can take abuse. And they've done a really nice job building a community around that ethos. We'll start with the Urbanist, which at around $295 is probably the most approachable way into RZE and one of my favorite modern field watches out there. This one uses a 36mm titanium case that's about 11 thick and 42 lug to lug. The case is coated with their Ultra Hex, which bumps the surface hardness way up, and you still get 100 meters of water resistance and a sapphire crystal with inner AR. Inside is the Miyota solar movement, so 10 seconds under the sun wakes this watch up, and as long as you don't live in a cave, it'll keep running. The dial is a big part of the appeal here. You have the sand textured surface, 3D embossed numerals, and bright superluminova. It has a ton of depth for such a simple three-hander. And the colors are amazing. You have things like medallion yellow, bubblegum pink, azure blue, plus their special editions. I love that they took a category usually dominated by olive, black, and gray, and just threw that out the window and did their own thing. The Resolute 36 takes that RZE toughness and wraps it in a smaller, more refined package. The case is 36mm wide, only about 9.5 thick, with a lug-to-lug around 42.3. It's full titanium again, case and bracelet, with the Ultra Hex hard coating and 100 meters of water resistance. You get sapphire crystal with internal AR, a screw-down crown and case back, and their quick click titanium bracelet with a no-tool micro adjustment clasp. The whole watch is incredibly light. The head alone is just in the mid 30 gram range, and even size on the bracelet, it disappears on the wrist. Inside is the Miyota 9039 automatic, a no-date high-beat movement with roughly 42 hours of power reserve. It's definitely a step up price-wise from the Urbanist, this one coming in at around $680, but you can see exactly where the money goes in terms of finishing, bracelet engineering, and the automatic. Next up, we have Nodus. This is a Los Angeles microbrand that's become a bit of a benchmark in the space. It's two friends who started it back in 2017, and they still assemble and regulate everything in-house in Los Angeles, which is pretty rare at these price points. Their design language is very modern to a watch with a restrained twist. Things like clean lines, good proportions, and just enough personality to stand out without it feeling over-designed. Start with the Sector Dive GMT, which is Nodus taking their sector case architecture and turning it into a compact travel watch. This one is 40mm in diameter and about 12 thick. It's around 47 lug-to-lug and the water resistance is 100 meters. You get a 316L stainless case, sapphire crystal with AR, and a 24-hour bezel that works with a GMT hand. The bracelet is their H-link design with the taper down to 16mm and the Node X clasp, which gives you an on-the-fly micro adjust. Inside, you got the Seiko NH34 automatic GMT movement, so you have the independently adjustable 24-hour hand, so you can track a second time zone. Dial options lean into clean, legible layouts with strong lume and just enough color to keep it interesting. So if you want a microbrand GMT that's compact and genuinely practical, this is a solid pick, coming in at around $525. Sector 2 is Nodus doing a modern, three-hand sports watch, and the same compact case. This one is 38mm in diameter, about 11.7 thick, and 47 lug-to-lug. You get all the same premium materials from the GMT, and the dial options include a glacier blue, frost white, void black, and tone model with a bronze bezel. They're glossy enamel dials with applied indices and a printed minute track, no date, and BGW9 grade A lume. Inside is the Seiko NH38 no date automatic, which Nodus actually regulates in-house to tighter tolerances than stock. So it's not a super flashy spec sheet, but the execution and finishing are what make this one shine in the just under $500 price range. Time to look at Henry Archer. Henry Archer is a Danish microbrand that has blown up as of late, and I'm pretty sure I'd really be hearing about it in the comments if they weren't on this list. Their whole thing is dial work and finishing, hard-coated cases, insane color combos, all done with a very Scandinavian design sensibility, so it never feels cheap or loud for the sake of it. They're also one of the few microbrands where you can tell there's a real obsession with both design and wearability. You have thin cases, smart dimensions, and specs that make sense for both daily use and for dress watches. First, we'll take a look at the Havstrom. This might be one of the most stunning dials I have ever seen, especially the purple. You get this deep, saturated purple that shifts under the light with a bright green ring around it, really a color that absolutely shouldn't work, but it does so well. It looks like the whole dial is glowing, even when the lume is off. The case on this one stays very wearable at 40mm, 47 lug-to-lug, and just over 10mm thick. You get sapphire in the front and back with multi-layer AR, 200 meters of water resistance, and a hard coating on the case and bracelet that helps with scratch resistance, plus a toolless micro adjust. Inside is the Miyota 9019 from their premium series, a slim, high-beat automatic that helped keep this watch so wearable. This watch is currently on pre-order for $652. The combination of the dial, the hard-coated case and bracelet, the movement you're getting, and the overall finishing makes this price make sense. And from what I've seen, Henry Archer does seem to do well in the secondary market. And then you have the Vesterhof, which is a slightly more everyday leaning counterpart to the Havstrom. It lands at 38mm across, about 10.45 thick, and 46 lug-to-lug. You still get 200 meters of water resistance, and all the same premium materials you can find on the Havstrom, down to the Miyota 9019 movement. Where this watch really shines is its variety. The dial options range from more muted, almost dressy configurations to insanely bright, coastal-inspired options. Which is cool, because the name of this watch literally means West Sea in Danish. It's what they call the stretch of the North Sea off Denmark's west coast. So the watch is very much built around that aesthetic. All with Henry Archer's usual attention to texture and color transitions and detail. It's one of the more affordable ways to get into this brand, as some models come in below $600. And what kind of shocks me is that some of the more attractive and unique dial options are below that $600 range. So if you're looking to get into one of the internet's most loved micro brands, and for good reason, this is probably where I'd look first. Let's take a trip to Long Island and check out Islander. Islander is the in-house brand from Mark at Long Island Watch. And uncoincidentally, it feels like it was built by someone who's been in this hobby for a long time. Mark was massive on YouTube years before Islander existed, so when he finally launched his own brand, it was a much needed answer to the SKX-sized hole that was left in the watch industry. The result is a catalog full of enthusiast spec watches with fun themes, strong lube, and really crazy value. We'll start with the Northport, because that's probably the watch that most of you think of when you think of Islander right now, if you already know who they are. And also, it's only fair that I include this watch after showing off the Wish Do It, we can just say homage of this. So this one is 40.5 millimeters in diameter, about 12.5 thick, and 47 millimeters lug to lug. You get 200 meters of water resistance, a flat sapphire crystal with AR, and a loomed sapphire bezel insert. But really, the dial is the star. It's a ripple texture inspired by the Long Island Sound, with gradients like seafoam green, fading to white. The way the light catches the texture really does look like shallow water, and the color match bezel keeps the whole design cohesive. Inside this one you get the Miyota 9015 high beat automatic, and a bracelet that tapers from 20 to 16 millimeters, uses a full milled clasp, and has 6 micro adjustment holes, so you can definitely find the perfect fit on this watch, and Islander is known for their bracelet quality. For around $429, this delivers the value you expect from Islander. And then we have the Saltaire. This is our compact solar diver, coming in at 38 millimeters in diameter, and about 12.5 thick, and only 46 lug to lug. You still get 200 meters of water resistance, a flat sapphire crystal with internal AR, and a full stainless steel case and bracelet. The movement in this one is the Miyota 2070 ring solar quartz, so you have no date, just a clean 3-hand layout that charges off the dial and off light. The mint green version in particular is a standout for this one, has a soft nice color but still feels like a proper diver. At full retail this watch is still solid value, but right now at the time of recording, it is on sale for under $200, so I would definitely check this one out. And finally, we have the Hudson Harpoon from them. A watch where every week is Shark Week. This shark-themed diver comes in at 40 millimeters across and about 12.1 thick. So really a nice and thin watch, and only 47 lug to lug. Of course you're getting your 200 meters of water resistance, sapphire with AR, and their amazing bracelet. The details are where this watch is just amazing and goes all in. The dial has a subtle shark texture pressed into it, the minute hand is shaped like a harpoon, the seconds hand counterweight is a tiny little shark, and the bezel pip has a hidden little fun motif. The case back shows a breaching shark with "Help, Shark" engraved around it. And the degrading sea grain version, that gradient dial over the texture really does look like murky water. Inside you got the Miyota 9015 again, so you have that smooth sweep and reliable performance. There's lume everywhere, dial, bezel, crown logo, even the date frame, so it glows like crazy. At full retail you'll find this one in the mid 500s, but this one's also on sale occasionally, and at the time of recording is in the mid 300s, and honestly, that might be the best value piece on this entire list. For our penultimate brand, we have Ferro Co. This brand is pure motorsport energy, so you had to know they had a good chance of showing up on this list. Ferro Co is from Canada, and they lean hard into the Le Mans, Gulf Stripes, vintage race car dashboards, and one-hand racing timers. Everything they do feels like it was designed by someone who spends their free time watching old racing footage. You know, kind of like I do. So if you want watches that are unapologetically car-coded, but still have amazing specs and thoughtful execution, I think you've come to the right brand. First, we'll check out the Racemaster Chronograph Azul. This is them doing pure retro motorsport. 39mm in diameter, 13 thick, including the crystal, with a 45mm lug to lug. Brushed 316L stainless steel, and a German box-domed hezolite crystal with 50 meters of water resistance. The dial is where things go all in. You get asphalt textured base, applied indices with C3 Superluminova, and contrasting subdials that look like dashboard gauges. The color blocking leans hard into the Golf style, the blue and orange, which is one of my favorite motorsport styles that you commonly see on these type of watches. Inside is the Seiko VK64 Mecha Quartz movement. At this price, which is just around $425, the combo of unique design, along with reliable movement and tons of character, makes sense to me. If you guys are getting a little bit sick of the Golf livery style though, I would definitely check out the silver dial with the racing accents. This one hits all the same notes and I think looks just as good. Then we have the Distinct 3 Avanti, and this is a weird one in the best way possible. It's a one-hand racing watch inspired directly by classic Le Mans instruments. It's a 42mm polished 316L case and about 13.1 thick in the automatic version and only 10mm thick in the quartz version. Either way, it's a 48mm lug-to-lug, and water resistance is at 100 meters thanks to that screw-down crown. On this watch, you have a choice of movements, either the NH35 automatic or the Swiss Ronda quartz. Both of those are big winners. This watch comes in a beautiful perforated Italian racing leather or racing nylon strap. The dial is a dual-layer track, fully loomed in C3, with a single long hand that sweeps once every 12 hours. The dial is divided into 144 markers, each representing 5 minutes, with bolder markings at the quarter hours. So once you get used to it, it's surprisingly easy to read. But it feels very different from a standard three-hander. It's a great example of a brand committing hard to a theme and backing it up with real specs. And you also have a great price on this one, coming in at only $320. And the last brand we have on this list is Sheffield. This is a revived brand name that's gone all in on car culture with their modern lineup. The current watches were built by someone who feels like they love Porsches and old school racing equally as much as they love dive and tool watches. Almost everything in this catalog ties back to either driving or motorsport in some way, but they do back up the theme with proper and solid specs. We'll start with the Sheffield All Sport lineup, which is where they lean really the hardest into the motorsport fun. All of the GT models share the same core spec, a 40mm 316L case, 200 meters of water resistance, a screw-down crown, a sapphire crystal with AR, and the Miyota 2070 solar quartz movement. You also get an FKM rubber strap, but no matter which color you pick, you're getting a legit spec sheet for the money. The classic GT and All Sport 1 variants lean into the traditional GT color combos, blues, darker tones, and the now iconic white dial with the blue and orange stripes. The GT Pink takes the same formula and just cranks the fun factor up, so you get a loud pink dial that keeps the same racing layout. And because the movement is solar, you get the grab-and-go convenience of a quartz with very little maintenance. You guys know I love to end these lists with the most affordable options, and this one delivers, especially for the specs you're getting, at only $138 to $150. Then we have the Jay Leno Garage Mechanics Pit Watch, another awesome microbrand collab that I'm happy exists. This is a 42mm 316L case with a sandblasted finish, so the scratches are less obvious. Paired with the Seiko VK64 Mecha Quartz. Water resistance is 100 meters and you get sapphire crystal with anti-glare, a screw-down crown, and pushers for the chrono. The dial is bright white and textured, with a big 60-minute register, a 24-hour subdial, and bold markings that are easy to read. Lume on the hands and markers keeps it usable in darker garages or night drives. It ships with a 22mm FKM rubber strap and usually comes with an extra leather strap in the box, which is always a nice touch. This feels like a proper mechanics watch, tough enough for real use, but still very much a car enthusiast piece with a really cool Jay Leno connection. You can grab this one for only $258. And last watch on the list, we have the SCR. This takes things in a more serious diver direction, but still stays very automotive coated. The case is 40mm in diameter, 13 thick, and 48 lug to lug. Water resistance is 200 meters, and you get a screw-down crown and a sapphire crystal with AR. Inside is the NH35 automatic movement, paired with the matte dial and white Swiss lume markers. At this price, getting a full automatic diver with a strong lume, sapphire, and real motorsport DNA is in a compelling package at only $268. So that's going to do it for this list, and if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my picks. Every watch I mentioned in this video will be linked in the description, and I highly encourage you to check these out and support these microbrands. I'll honestly probably have another microbrand list video soon, because it was so hard just to narrow it down to only 10 brands. There's so many incredible ones out there. So I also encourage you to check out this community, dive as deep into it as you can, and find all these great brands doing such unique and creative work. Thanks again for watching. Please like, comment your favorite brands below, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Shameless Watch Collector, signing off. And always remember, It's not that serious.